It's pretty obvious that the political winds in Washington are going to be changing, or change will be upon us possibly very soon. And there's a lot that's been going on in the seniors housing industry dealing with some of the political aspects. So to kind of answer some of the questions for us, I got David Schless, who's the president of the American Seniors Housing Association. And the political pot has certainly been stirred in D.C. these days. What is ASHA's #1 legislative priority today?
Well, I think probably the top priority for us right now is the pending GSE reform of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and that's an issue that we think will come more into focus probably next year. A lot of different groups, providing commentary. I don't think there's a clear-cut path in terms of how the GSE reform will take place, but certainly for the senior housing space, it has enormous implications given the role the GSEs have played in the debt side of the business. And a natural partner for us has been to work with the apartment industry. As you know, we have a long relationship with the multifamily industry, and so we've been really working very closely with them, and obviously seniors housing being a relatively small subset of the multifamily piece of both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So that's a big issue for us. That's probably the top one.
And the congressmen you talk to, are they pretty much, they understand the situation with senior housing, financing, and the importance of Fannie Freddie?
They really don't, and I mean that's a big part of the process for us now has been the educational initiatives, and interestingly, I mean I think not just seniors housing, but multifamily more generally. I think the focus of the meltdown obviously being very much on the single family side. My sense is a lot of the members that we talk to are even surprised that there was this very significant role for multifamily and seniors. So that's a big part of the process right now.
Okay, well, we definitely need your work on that. And then earlier this year, we all realized that the so-called card check legislation was dead on arrival in Washington. But lately, we've been hearing rumblings. There's a new guy at the National Labor Relations Board who is trying to kind of backdoor card check without going through congressional legislation.
Right.
Is that something that could happen, and what can the industry do about that?
Well, that certainly there's a concern, I think, amongst all types of businesses that using kind of the backdoor process. There will be an opportunity to pass sweeping changes. I don't think we really anticipate that happening, but certainly there's a lot of interest in how the board deals with this issue. I think the reality is probably there will be things that will probably happen through the National Labor Relations Board process that will probably not be looked upon favorably by industry generally. But we really don't anticipate anything as sweeping and damaging, frankly, as card check. Nor do we see on the congressional side the likelihood of that type of initiative having an opportunity to pass Congress.
Okay. All right. Well, so hopefully you're not going to have to focus on that too much. And then in the CCRC sector, there have been some well-publicized financial issues in the past 12 months or so, resulted in a GAO study, a Senate hearing. Do you think, is the conclusion pretty much that this is the exception to the rule and it's not going to result in any kind of new federal action on the CCRC side?
I think the conclusion for for the time being is that certainly the aging committee will continue to monitor the CCRC space. I think the conclusion of the Aging Committee hearing and really the GAO report in the summer, this was back in July, was that to date, there have been very few problems that have directly impacted the refundability of promised entrance fees. But clearly, I think there is the sentiment among those members of the Aging Committee that participated in the hearing.
All two of them?
Yeah, very modest turnout. But I think that I think the sentiment was that this was really a state's issue. But I think the hearing that was held in July was really probably as benign as it possibly could have been.
But do you see? I mean, I don't know what the number is. Something like half of the states, regulate CCRCs, or a little more than half, and some really have no regulation. Do you really see, at this juncture, with everything else that states have on their plates, do you really see them stepping up any kind of regulatory process for CCRCs?
Well, that's a great question, Steve. My sense has always been that there are about 38 states that have CCRC specific regulations, and they tend to be states that have CCRCs. There are a couple of instances, Ohio probably being one of those examples where you clearly have CCRC stock, and you don't really have CCRC specific statutes and regulation. And frankly, I mean, my conversations with our counterparts on the not-for-profit side, American Association of Homes and Services for the Aging, has really been to encourage those efforts in states like Ohio, to really have the providers in that state, the CCRC providers, take the initiative to find legislative champions in the Ohio legislature, and really to work towards enacting state oversight of the product. In other states, like North Dakota, to the extent you don't see the specific state statutes, it is generally a reflection of the lack of product there. Yeah. But our position has always been that in states where there are things that can be done to shore up adequate oversight, that the industry really should take the initiative. Obviously, as you point out, with the state budgets being what they are, that is always a concern. But certainly with with the CCRC product, I think in a state like Ohio, and there are probably others, that would be our recommendation to the associations at the state level that represent that constituency.
Just take care of it yourself.
Exactly.
As we are heading into another year, are your members, are they kind of more upbeat than they were a year ago, would you say, or is it about the same? What's the general mood of your membership?
My sense is that probably slightly more upbeat. I think there's certainly a concern about the capital markets, and there is less capital out there for the industry. So I think that's a concern that folks have. My sense is that the preponderance of our members have really focused on the operational type issues and deficiencies, and I think it's still a challenging market out there for most. I think the more need-driven side of the business has been easier. But I think there's still a lot of pressure out there on the operators, and so I don't think folks feel great about where things are. but relative to last year, and certainly as you recall, I'm sure that fall of 2008, where there was really almost a sense of shock at what was taking place. I mean, obviously, I think we're far
removed from that.
Thankfully, far removed from that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think the industry will breathe a big sigh of relief if you can really push on the Fannie Freddie and with the financing and making sure senior housing there. That's going to be a big task, but obviously I think it'll be one of the most welcome ones that we can see next year.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. And the interesting thing, obviously, will be the politics and the political dynamics that we're looking at after November's election, and certainly that will likely impact who shapes the debate.
Absolutely. All right. Well, good luck next year, and wish you continued success.
Always a pleasure. Always nice to be with you, Steve.
All right.
Thank you.